Okay, let's talk about the Mountain West Conference. You do recall when the Mountain West reached this agreement to allow 5 schools, led by the Aztecs and Boise State, to go to whatever the new Pac 12 was going to look like. Well, this week on Wednesday, Utah State, Colorado State filed a lawsuit against the Mountain West Conference and the commissioner. And they have charged that the Mountain West is withholding TV revenue from the 5 departing schools that is owed them. And the Mountain West has given paperwork to the 5 departing schools, charging them for $38 million in exit fees, not the initially agreed to $18 million in exit fees, and that the Mountain West has barred San Diego State and the other schools that went to the Pac-12 have barred them from taking part in the Board of Trustees, Board of Directors meetings. So this is kind of really messy. I don't understand why the Mountain West thinks now, after reaching some type of agreement with the departing schools, why they suddenly think they can withhold TV money or NCAA basketball units. I don't understand that. So this is really messy, what Colorado State and Utah State did. J.D. Wicker's not commenting as to whether San Diego State is really part of this or this is just a CSU, USU thing that they've done. So that's topic one. Second one, this has been an awful week in the Pacific Northwest in Pullman, Washington. Their coach went public midweek and just had a meltdown. Jake Deichert's done a great job at Washington State, which doesn't have a lot of resources. His record's 23-20. He went off on the NCAA, on the transfer portal, and the NIL. He says, we cannot continue to operate this way. It's destructive, not just to Washington State or the other team, Oregon State, the 2 survivors in the Pac-12. It's destructive to everybody across the country. I tend to agree with him. Then he lost his quarterback. Johnny Mantier was bribed, was tampered with, and the kid was torn. Do I stay? Do I go? He withdrew. He's not going to play in the Holiday Bowl for the Cougars. He's on his way. He's transferred out. It's a shocker. He's Oklahoma's starting quarterback. Wow. This kid had 3,900 all-purpose yards. He was the heart and soul. And why? They wrote him a big check. And if that's not bad enough, then Deichert quit. He got hired 12 hours after the head coach at Wake Forest, Dave Clawson, walked away from the sport because of the whole mess. NIL, NCAA. Wake Forest has struggled to compete in the ACC, and Jake Deichert has gone to Wake Forest. So Washington State is face down in the gutter. Lost the quarterback, pile of guys in the transfer portal. Now they lost their coach. They lost their coordinator. They lost their quarterback coach, all in the span of about 24 hours.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have to pick up the pieces, and they don't have a lot of resources. And Johnny Mantier, he was really pulled emotionally. Should I stay? I love the Cougars, and they developed him as a great quarterback, or should I go? And he's gone to Oklahoma. That's a real bad story. Third one, guess who's coaching at Norfolk State? Michael Vick. I'm a little bit surprised at the end result. Norfolk State is an HBCU, a very proud university, African-American heritage, but has hardly got any resources at all. It's in the state of Virginia, 20 miles from where he grew up on Hampton Roads. He also interviewed at Sacramento State, which is in the Big Sky Conference. Mm-hmm. And Sacramento State's trying to get into the Mountain West, and they've got big financial backing in the Silicon Valley. I thought he was going to go to Sac State, but his emotional ties are back there in the Tidewater area. Michael Vick, just named head coach at Norfolk State. A lot of work to be done. You know, they're way behind the power curve in terms of players, but he's going to bring in NFL assistant coaches whom he knows, retired players. I think he's going to try to do a smaller version of what Deion Sanders did at CU. He's never coached before, but if you can put experienced assistants around you, maybe got a chance to compete, but they're way behind the power curve in the MEAC, which is another black conference, in terms of personnel and obviously in terms of financial support. So we'll see if Michael Vick can make some things happen there. Colorado. Neon Deion just continues to do well. Shedeur Sanders is leaving. He got one of the top high school quarterbacks in the country to commit late and signed at CU And now he's got one of the top transfer quarterbacks, Caden Salter, Liberty University, 1AA power, 8,100 all-purpose yards, 66 touchdowns in 2 years at Liberty. He's going into Boulder, probably going to be the starting quarterback once Deion Sanders leaves. So Deion continues to press the right buttons in player personnel. And the last item is the Ivy League. You know, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, blah, blah, blah. Ivy League has had a structure. You play your 10-game schedule. That's all you play. Ivy League, we don't allow graduate transfers. Ivy League, we don't allow transfers out of the portal. Ivy League has just had a different structure. That's all changed. Out of the clear blue sky, behind the cloud cover, coming out from back of the curtain, the Ivy League just confirmed they were offered and they've signed a deal to allow the Ivy League champion to go to the 1AA playoffs.
Hey.
FCS. The 1AA playoffs is pretty good. You know, that's the Montanas and the Montana States and the legendary North Dakota State programs. The Ivy League champion next year will be allowed to go to the 1AA playoffs. Now, tough part of the equation is the Montanas and the North Dakota States and all those guys. They give out 65 scholarships. Ivy League does not give out athletic grants. Now, obviously, they give great academic grants. So that would be fascinating to see how these top players at Harvard or Dartmouth or Brown match up against really good kids. Montana, Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. They have become the perennial powers in 1AA football. Interesting to see how the Ivy League works. First time ever. I mean, they stepped away from the way they operated, and they're doing this. So fascinating. John, it's up to you to sort out the Mountain West Conference program, but you can't go to that staff meeting or go into court wearing that hoodie, but go ahead.
It just seems like a bitter breakup, you know, like,
how's this possible?
You know, like, you know, people throwing darts and arrows at each other after a breakup or a divorce. I don't know how they're going to solve that thing. The Washington State thing is interesting to me because on one level, you got these old school coaches that are flabbergasted by the transfer portal, NIL. It's ruining the sport. They want anything to do with it. They don't want to have to manage it anymore.
Right.
But Bill Belichick has the model. He has a GM. And I was thinking, this is great. It's like a human resources person that can manage all of that NIL transfer portal stuff so the coach can coach.
Everybody's doing that in the Power Four conferences.
Yeah.
Everybody's hiring a director of operations or a quote, as you say, general manager.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And so I like seeing that. Michael Vick, you know, people are still angry with him about all the dogfighting stuff. So at some point, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with that guy, but I remember when he was playing at Vatech, and boy, was he dynamic.
He was a dynamic player in the NFL until he got himself involved with that other junk. And I thought he was a very, very good quarterback, and he had persona. So I hope it works for him at Norfolk State, but they're so far behind the power curve.
Well, didn't the Chargers have the number 1 pick that year for Vick, and they traded down and took LT?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I've always liked him. Love him Prime. I hope Prime just keeps having success. And then for the Ivy League, you know, just a bunch of snooty elitists. Like, we don't do postseason football. I mean, come on, get him in the 1AA. I think that sounds great.
If you ever been to a Harvard Yale game, I mean, it's cut from a different cloth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it equal in terms of big time? It's not Michigan, Ohio State. It's not USC, UCLA. It's not Alabama, Auburn, all the historical rivalries. But I'll tell you, Harvard, Yale is freaking unbelievable to them. In the state of New England, that is the game.
Oh yeah, and I know that the students are always pranking the others.
Yeah.
You've seen the one where they had the placards and they put up, and I think it said "We suck." You know, it was like a bomb on those guys. But there's been a number of NFL players that have played in the Ivy League. I mean, who is some of the top?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that's one.
Played in the NFL for 16 years. Harvard man, smart as can be. Historically, can throw the crap out of the ball. He does throw interceptions. Now he's on my TV talking football.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what he says because he's a Harvard man. Ed Marinaro, great running back way back in the day. Minnesota Vikings, started at Cornell.
Right on.
I mean, there's guys all over the place. And the first, I think, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm never wrong. I think the first Heisman Trophy winner, Jay Berwanger, was he from Princeton? or maybe it was the University of Chicago. I can't
Jay
remember.
Berwanger?
Yeah,
That's
he
a
was
name.
He was a running back, 1935, 36, the first year of the Heisman. He might have been an Ivy Leaguer. If I'm wrong, go ahead. You can call me out this one isolated time in my life, but that just popped into my brain. So I'm happy for the Ivy Leaguers. I just don't know how they'll compete against scholarship schools, but we'll see. We're not done.